All right, guys, happy Monday. Here we are, what is it, July 6th. It's kind of middle of the day here. So we're going to look at a couple of the RXs. We'll look at TRX and ZRX, and I'll show you why we're doing that here in just a sec. Before we do, just a reminder here, this is the last day of this little promo, a little holiday weekend promo. We extended it through the end of today, so if you're interested or kind of been on the fence about joining us here, this is a good time to do it. So we've got the discounts here. I'm right over here at TradeDevils.com if you just come up to our plans and prices tab at the top. So there's no code necessary. You just come over here and select so you can see the discounts are in and already set up for you. All right, so if you're thinking about that, there you go. Way to save yourself a little bit of dough. And of course over here, if you've not seen this before, everything that you get with each of those associated memberships. All right, so there you go. We'll run that through midnight tonight if anyone is interested. So back over here on this site that I mentioned on Friday that I'm kind of liking. This is Lunar Crush. Again, I have no affiliation with them. I don't really know much about who's behind them, other than this is kind of an interesting. And of course, this is not they're not unique here, but kind of an interesting way that they're scoring, particularly the alts here relative to Bitcoin. So they have this alt ranking here. Again, I talked about this on Friday. So you can come over here. It's lunarcrush.com. Kind of review how they're ranking these. It's interesting. So what I'm doing in terms of just kind of giving you ideas about where to go look for a trade. Well, if I see something like this over here on Lunar Crush, and we're talking about the social volume and let's just talk about the general buzz about a particular project, well, that kind of intrigues me. And I look down the list here and I can see, okay, well, Tomo Chain, I was not familiar with them. I looked at that. Chart's a little wonky. Bitcoin Silver, I almost never trade that. VeChain, we looked at that on Friday. KNC, we looked at that on Friday. Now, Tron is kind of interesting to me. So we're in the top 6 here. So TRX, anytime I see a major up here, it kind of attracts my attention. So, but I don't want to just look here. I want to look for confirmation. So I go over here to another one of these similar sites, although they have a different series and different ranking system. So I come over to CoinCheckup, again, coincheckup.com. Once again, no affiliation with them whatsoever. But if I look here and I sort based off of their algo score, which of course is a bit different. Well, Ox is number 1, or it has been for a long time. Well, here's Tron down here. Well, this is in the top 10 here. This number is ranking relative to market cap. But if we look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Tron here, and you can see a big pump today, and 4.1 on their scale here. The highest being 4.48 with Ox, Zelica, Monero. These have been up here for quite some time. So, so the idea here is, well, let's go take a look at the chart. Is there something there that would be interesting? So, well, let's start over here with Tron, TRX to Bitcoin. It is nice that we can, once again, we can finally look at some alts relative to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's getting a little bit of a bounce today. So, are we moving in tandem? Well, of course, if Bitcoin is moving, then TRX needs to be moving faster for this to be a trade we want to look at. So you kind of just pull it out here and say, okay, well, we've been this is a 3-hour chart. We've come down through this series of this correction here. Now we're coming off of the alt story here. So a long bear that perhaps is showing signs of life here. So this is here's something to keep in mind. So if I just wick off this low here, let's just do it this way, and then let's do it again here. One of the assumptions that I think particularly new traders that are, pardon me, let me say it this way. Traders that are new to Elliott Wave is they assume that that Elliott Wave, that there will be clarity of count all the time, that there is always a count. And while Elliotticians and fanatics will tell you that there's always a count that can be kind of wedged into, no matter how ugly it looks. My view is that it's maybe half the time you've got the market actually showing repeatable patterns that we want to trade off. The rest of the time, the market is just somewhat random and chaotic. And while it's tradable, and price action guys will tell you you can trade anything at any moment in time, my view is here, if I can't see a nice clear Elliott count to kind of guide my thinking, there better be something there that I really like. So the algos need to be absolutely perfect, or the geometry needs to be pretty good. to have me continue to fuss with it here. Now this looks like a diagonal. Oh, well, what's interesting here is off of the low. Here, I've got the, let me get, let's go back to a measured move. I was messing around with this. You see, we're breaking here. So while that doesn't invalidate this as a 2, right? We know a 2 can go deeper than that. If I see this kind of sloppiness, so I've got a break here, failure to make the target, it makes me a little cautious about trading that. But I do, if I'm going to use this low here, I'm kind of willing to say, all right, well, let's come over to the hard right edge and see if perhaps we've got the start of something. So this looks like perhaps it was corrective if we put this in a larger context here, right? So what was this? Well, we don't have a new low yet, but certainly we're coming off of, the relentless bear in alts. So let's just zoom down here a little bit. So here, let me go back to that 3 hour. Let's get this reconstructed. So this, of course, when you get down to these smaller time frames on alts, this is the kind of price action here that I'm always a bit reluctant to start trading in, because what you're just seeing here is a lack of volume. It's just, so you better like the trade here, because as soon as I see a chart that looks like that, it's approached with caution. But I do see a count here that warrants a closer look here. So if I squeeze this all back up together here, and we're going to allow for this choppy price action, well, it does look like I've got just a textbook leading diagonal coming off of the low here. So we go A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. And conditional with a leading diagonal like this is that 3 has to be longer than 1 and 5 has to be longer than 3, and we have exactly that. I mean, it's both of them are damn near to the tick, the 1272 138 window. So we get that here. Oh, and then if we go to the, let's do it this way. Right, so here's the 2. All right, so then we get it here. So we get 1272 in between. Here we get 1272 again. So it looks like we've got a nice case for a leading diagonal off of the low. Okay, so after all of this slop and the thin volume here, it looks like maybe I've got the start on something. Okay, well, that's enough to make, so certainly I want to check how technical we are as we come off of now a pattern here that I can identify. And look down here and say, all right, so okay, what's standard? What's the first thing we do, right? Very first thing we do. Right, so now note here, over here, we're breaking the golden zone. Here we go right into it, literally tag the 65 to the tick. Well, so as soon as I see that, and I'm thinking, all right, well, it looks like maybe there's, this, whatever this was, it was corrective. It's technical, so we know, now we know algorithms are participating here. We don't have to wonder about it. We can see it. Well, of course, as soon as you see that, what is that? What's the first thing that occurs to you, right? Right. If you've got to retrace right into a golden zone and we're thinking about a 1-2, what's the very next thing you would do? Right, we'd get the geometry on it. So what do we have there? I mean, literally, like, I can't make this stuff up, guys. Right? So it's just textbook, right? So golden corner pocket goes, there's your 80%. Right, as I've said to you 1,000 times, this is the single best odds in trade. Well, now that we're talking about options, we might have to qualify that. With regards to a directional play here, where you're not taking advantage of an option's inherent time decay. The probability, the directional probability, that's the best trade. That is the single highest probability trade you could find anywhere. I defy anyone to challenge me on that. This has 80%, again, as I always say, as long as that pivot holds, 80% odds that we get there. You show me another trade that you can put in front of me with that kind of odds statistically over time, well, go ahead, I'll wait. Because you won't find one. So there you go. So there's your 80% already realized. Well, so you go, oh, well, shit, okay, thanks a lot for telling me that. Now that it's come and gone. Well, slow down now. If this is going to be a 1 and this is our corrective 2, which, keep in mind, now, right now, that's what we see, right? Remember, an Elliott count is always just a snapshot in time. So right now, this could be in play. Now, we're hitting a little resistance as we get here, and you can kind of, oh, well, you can look up here and say, okay, well, we've got potentially now supply comes into the market. Now, there's nothing here in the volume profile, but then we're awfully far down here. Now we open it up, we get a little bit more visible range. So, of course, come here. We're going to have to check the pivots here. So from the pivot swing high to this low that we're using for the start of an Elliott count, well, we've got some leg room up here. There's some headroom here. We're not even to the first algo target off of this. So just the fact that we're bumping into the median line here. So if we're going to retrace off of that, which remains to be seen, but we do have, you can kind of see, all right, that makes sense to me. If we're going to come down and do something like that, maybe we catch the lower parallel. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, what's one thing I've learned from Trade Devils, from the guys over at Trade Devils, is that I don't want to buy a market that's going up. Well, okay, let me rephrase that a little bit. So here, I'll say it this way. I refuse to do it. I will not buy a market that's going up, right? I just don't. Or again, that's after many, many years of, you know, you guys have told you guys many times, there's nothing I haven't tested and traded, which is why I land on this as still your single best directional trade, right, from a golden corner pocket. So if we're going to hit here, if we are going to get a retrace, that's what I'm waiting for, right? This thing, as far as I'm concerned, right, and again, this is just me, this could go here. I'm not touching it until I get a retrace, right? Because I mean, probably more money lost buying breakouts than any other single trade pattern, period, right? It's how experienced traders on Wall Street, algorithm, whoever you want, this is how they make their payments at their beach house in the Hamptons, right? Fading breakout traders, right? Now, of course, right now, nothing's absolute, right? Nothing. Right? So I don't need to. You don't need to comment or DM or text me or put it under the video. Hey, I bought a breakout and I made. Good for you, man. I'm happy you did, right? But in terms of the statistical odds of buying a market that's going straight up, I'm telling you, you get backwards risk reward, right? So where's your stop? You know, so again, as I've said many times, so where are you going to put your stop? Right under the pivot low. Oh no, I'm just going to use a random 2%, right? So I'm just going to trade my wallet. I'm not going to trade the market. Well, right, you know, ideally you can do both. That's what you're looking for. My suggestion is look to do both. So if you get a retrace here, 2% of your account, if you're going to use that pivot low as your stop, well, you're buying the retrace, right? So remember, it's the name of the game. Again, I got to qualify. As in my view, the name of the game here is to buy the internal retracement that goes external, right? So I want buy it coming down so that it can go up, so that I've got all of that room here, and I've got much lower distance, and I can trade the market, not some random risk number. Ideally what I want is I want to trade both. I want to trade the market and my 2%. But in order to do that, I can't buy the market when it's going up. I got to wait for it to go down, and I understand. See, if this was easy, everybody would be rich. That means you got to go counter to what your emotions are telling you. Holy shit, man, it's going straight down. I can't buy that. Again, if it were easy, everybody'd be driving Lambos. Hard to do. I know it's hard to do. I feel the same tension, right? When the market's coming down, oh shit, right? It isn't going to win this time. Oh, maybe we're going. It's a discipline. It takes time to develop a feel for that. Now, you don't. I'm out here on. So sorry. I'm out here on a 3-hour. So you could take this down to a 1 hour and say, okay, if that thing's coming down, and I think I've got. Well, here, let's just put it together. Just a little bit of a lesson here before we get into the actual trade. Okay, so it's coming down. Now I know if this is. Oh, shit, hang on. If this is 1, 2, and I'm going to pivot here, which I don't know for sure that I am. I just know that I've tagged it, right? So the market is responding technically. So if this is the 1, right? If heavy emphasis if we start to come down and sell off and retrace a little bit anywhere in this zone, and again you can kind of start to put some ideas together. Okay, prior resistance, potentially that's the support. Put me right between the 50 and the 618. Maybe I put 1 here, 1 at the golden zone, right? Stop under the, you know, I typically will use the 707 square root of 50, so I get, because it's going to be halfway between. Here, let's put it on there. It's going to be halfway between the 786. Come here, and there's 707. It'll be between the 65 and the 786, right? So often that's what I'll use for my stop, just a few ticks below that, because something like that certainly is possible, right? So it wouldn't invalidate the 1, 2, so we could get that, Right? That's always the double-edged sword here of trading it like this. We want the algo support, but if it comes, note here, if it comes down here and takes that out, well, we didn't lose this algo, right? He's still in the game, right? Until it breaks that 65, I still have an algo supporting me here. So this may not make it, right? So this algo that, you know, again, we're never going to know who's behind them. Could be the same people. We don't know. But this one breaks. I still have the support from this one that is actually after a much higher target, right? This guy's target, oh shit, I'm going to scrunch it up here. I got so much on here. This target is right here. Well, actually, they're pretty close together. If we look at them, they're both right here. So neither one of these, the bump into the median line has denied both of these. Even if we get through those, and then we got second target here, well, then I got a 50, then I got the big golden zone. So I got plenty of potential support down here. I've got the upsloping parallel to the median line. So I've got a nice little cluster down here, but market's going to have to come down a bit to accommodate that. And ideally, of course, I want to see it in a 3. If it just comes straight down, I'm not as excited about that. I want to see give me a nice little 3. So if I'm buying that down here, well, where's my target, right? I'm looking up here, right? So the upper parallel. So this would be the 1618 of this golden zone, and this would be this right here would be the 1618. Yeah, shit, that's probably too many lines here for you guys to be able to see it all. Let me get this off of here. All right, so that would clear it up a little bit better. Okay, so if this is the one, if the fact that if heavy emphasis, if we're going to pivot here, which I don't know that we are, but if we come down here, now there's a trade I love all day long. Why? Well, okay, well, what's the risk reward on that trade, right? Remember, it's got to be, you got to have enough upside there to make it worth the risk. Now, I don't know we're going to go into a full third here. I don't know that, but I have the potential for it. And I've got a technical pivot here. And again, I don't have this yet, but if I get something like this, so let's put, oh shit, let me get that 707 back on here. All right, so we can use that. So there's the 707. Let's come underneath it. We'll go up a little higher. All right, so we're a few, I'd come down. We're kind of in between the 707 because I like this trade. So I'm between the 707 and the 786. If I get stopped out here, I'd rather take the small loser, as is always what I'm going to tell you guys. I'd always, come here. Trading view so jumpy. If it does something like this, and then we get a bounce here, and then it's going to come down, I'm going to get my 3 deeper here. Maybe I'm going to double bottom. Maybe I'm going 786. I'd much rather take the small loser and then look to reevaluate again, and maybe I'm doing it that way. Right? Don't do this. Right? I've shown that 1,000 times, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, well it broke that one. Oh, okay, well, but it's not going to break the low. Oh, well, it's not going to break the prior low. I've done it, guys. I've done it too many times, way too many times, right? So just here's how many times I've done it. Just enough times so that I don't do it anymore. Right? Never do that. Don't ever do that. You'll always regret it, right? And the market will punish you. So it was something else I often talk about here, which is this is just a universal rule. The market always punishes mistakes. Always. Always, sooner or later, even if you get away with it, even if you got away with something like went down here, you moved your stop and then it rallied and you got away with it, well, it may not punish you that time, but the next time you're going to be tempted to do the same thing. Hey, I got away with it last time, so I know it's all good, right? The market will punish you for that. One way or another. I can absolutely guarantee it. So if you get something like this and we get the opportunity to take that trade, don't turn it into something where you're doing this. It's never worth it. Never. Just you may. I mean, I'm stubborn, right? So I will continue to do things until I've lost so much money. I go, fuck. Okay, I'm not doing it anymore. Right? That's the number of times I've done it. Exactly the number of times that said never again. Right, so you can learn from my mistakes, or you can learn it the hard way. Right, but the whole purpose of Trade Devils here is so that you can take advantage of all the dumb shit that I've done, or that I've watched other people do. Or, 10 years as a broker, I watched a lot of people lose a lot of money. Now, I watched some very smart people make a lot of money. Right, and that's the benefit of being a broker, right? You watch and you learn. Okay, so there you go. That's something here that I think you just have to be patient for. So we've got a market that's on the move, But now you got to wait, right? So much of trading, right? And this is where FOMO, will get you in trouble. Oh shit. Oh, it's going. Oh, man. Okay. I got to get in, man. I'm going to miss the move. I love TRX. It's going to go straight there. Right? So you buy the breakout and you're thinking, okay, all right, it's going. And what are we going to do? We're going to hit the algo target, right? And while sure it could keep going, guys, I understand, right? Right? Do you want to gamble with that? So potentially you've got, if I can even get over here, you got more structure to deal with. Maybe it's this one, right? Seller's going to defend right there, right? So you're coming into these and you're thinking, oh, I'm golden, it's going, right? What are we going to bump into? Again, nothing's guaranteed. That doesn't mean that, oh shit, if it touches that, well, it's going to sell off. Never what I'm saying. Just where is there room? Where is there room for this to go? I sure like the look of it down here. Because if I come back here and I hit the median line at those algo targets, well, I got to really think about whether or not I want to stay in that or whether I want to take a partial. Maybe I take a partial on the idea that while I can, I want to bank some profits. But if this is going to retrace, so maybe this is 1, 2, 1, 2 before we go 3, 4, 5 to get up to the third. Right, so you got to think about that. Are you willing to give it back? Well, I would be if I take, so maybe you take 40, 50% off here. Let it retrace. Okay, now you're kind of playing with house money. Just a few things to think about. All right, so on the radar for sure. But now, as you say, okay, wait a minute. What if it does this? What if it keeps going here? And you told me to wait. Now I'm missing the whole move. Welcome to the party, guys. That's just the reality of trading, right? So you're going to have to wait now. So if this starts to go towards a 3, sorry about it. You got to wait. Well, do what you want, but I would tell you you're better off to wait until you get the 4 and trade the 4 into the 5. Why? Because what are you doing then? You're buying the retracement, hoping that it goes from an internal retracement here, right? Maybe we use the geometry of 23, 38, going up for an external, right? Always the name of the game. Can I get an internal to go external? Can I buy it going down or sell it going up to see it break the previous pivot? So I've got an internal that goes external, right? So if it keeps ripping up here and you're not on board and you're, goddamn guy, Trade Devils told me not to buy that. Maybe not today. You'd be pissed at me for maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year. But eventually you're going to remember this. You're going to remember this. And perhaps you'll end up at the same place that it took me years to get to, where I just do not buy them going up. Right? That's my journey. Right? Everybody has their own journey in the market, and the market is a cruel master. All right? So sooner or later, it'll teach you that lesson. Okay, so let's go back over here, because I was looking down here as I was just showing you guys, so that OX, we'll go look over there. OX is number 1 with a bullet on their and it has been for as long as I've been checking it. I mean, a long time, well over a year. OX has been number 1 on their algorithmic score. And I'll let you come over here. You can click on it, go to their algorithmic score, and see how they do it and how they come up with that ranking here. You can go through all these categories here. So all of these categories give them a point total that comes up with getting us back to why ZRX is their number 1. So let's go look at ZRX. Okay, so here it is to Bitcoin on Binance. Now, I will say that I looked at it on both. So here, oh shit, where is it? I thought I had it over here. Let's look again. I looked at it to the dollar as well. Here it is. Shit, did I have ZRX? Maybe it was trying to do. Well, pardon me. We'll come back here. We'll look at, I think I looked at OX to the dollar. I didn't like it as much. So let's look over here to, here's OX to Bitcoin on Binance. So ZRX to Bitcoin. Now, okay, so kind of the same idea, although this looks like you got to work into a WXY because it's ABC, ABC, ABC. So it looks like you got to work into, it looks like a double bottom down here. You got a WXY into a potential 2. Now this looks like a candidate. Well, you'd have to open it up here. There is a little 3, 4, 5 into that. So this be the 5. So you'd have to go. So either you're doing it here and this is over here. I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times it bangs that low before you get the pump. So you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. when you bring it up on your chart, you'll see what I mean. I am on an 8 hour here. All right, so you could go 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's going to be hard for you to see it, but when you bring it up on yours, you'll see it. Right, so there's a 1. Maybe that's the 2. This, I don't love this, so this could be. Well, we could again be going into a WXY. Right, so this looks a little shy. Let's get. From that pivot. So this one we get to the 50 denied algo target down here. So we look here. All right, so it's had a break here. So this is a positive for ZRX in that we've broken the golden zone. Now, of course, nothing says that we couldn't have that, whether this is an ABC. Shit, we got 5 down there. Looks like you'd have to go ABC. This certainly could be ABC before we come down again. So you don't have it's not quite as good here. So if this is the 2, what is that, right? So this would be 1, 2, maybe, right? So you're already overlapped here. So you'd have to be hopeful that you've gone 1, 2, and now we're going into the 1 wave of the 3rd via a leading diagonal. All right, well, let's just see, coming out of the chute, do we qualify here? All right, well, we do, right? So remember, if it's going to be a leading diagonal like we just looked at with TRX, 3 has to be longer than 1, 5 longer than 3. So right now I have the initial qualifier here in that 3, if this is 3, would be longer than 1. So it's a contender, right? But certainly it could be an ABC before we go down, right? So it's a little sloppy here. Now, as you recall, I had the wolf range on because as I brought this up, first thing that I looked at is kind of just eyeballing this. Get it over here. This, I'm just wicking off. This seemed to be an important pivot here. We came down and tested it here. We 5 tags down here. Really, you could really you could drag it over to this pivot here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So this looks like it's about halfway. That makes me think wolf range here. So I'm looking for range expansion. So if I take it here to here, and let's go to the wolf range here. Again, I call it the wolf range, just range expansion. Well, look how nicely that is tagged that, right? So there's 100%, there's 200% of this initial range that we established through the price structure. All right, so boom, boom to the 200%. So, next target, right? So if that's going to be 1, 2, well, this is going to need to really kick, because if that's 1, 2, this has to be the 1, 2, or 3 of the. Let's go down to 1 hour here. If this is 1, 2, well, A, B, C, maybe. And it's a little sloppy here, and then hitting here, failing to get that. Well, so you can say, okay, is it technical? Let's go to our lowest low. Oh shit, wrong one. Yeah, let's go back to a measure and move here. See how this looks. Let's start with the lower one to that pivot high. Interesting. So let's come to this one. Now we're right tagging it to the tick. So if that's, geez, that's ugly. So if this is A1, A, B, C, I guess you'd have to do it. You'd have to truncate. This could be A, B, C. This could be 1, 2. It's ugly, right? So remember, as I was just saying, sometimes the Elliott is just not, it's not clear, or the market's just a schlop fest, right? There's nothing really to work with. So why force it? Now, eventually this thing may clear up beautifully and you've got a ripping impulse, but at the moment you don't really. So maybe you got the framework on a trade. Maybe that's a 1, 2, awfully ugly 1, 2, but I can get some targets up here. And I know that at least there's an algorithm in here because I'm tagging the range expansion. Right? So here I am at the 100, back down again. That's going to need to kick up here and give me a new high, because we have, you got a series of higher highs and higher lows. Now this has to be the low. Now we need a higher high for this to keep going. So I can't say I love this one as much. Let me go back to a 3 hour, see if we can get some geometry on this. Excuse me. Well, so we know this was technical. Let's get this off of here. So let's get this back on. See if we can put a golden corner. Right. Oh, that broke a little bit. Interesting. So let's get that. Let's check it over here. Yep, that broke, sure enough. All right, so you'd be a little suspect of this. Those are kind of sloppy tagging that. But I might. All right, so we would not have a golden corner because it's not golden now. All right, but you're pretty damn close. So I get a corner pocket here. Oops, Jesus. Come here. Holy shit, what did I just do? Okay, let's get you back up. Okay, there we go. That's a little suspect, but I do have a pivot here. So if that holds, I still maintain my 80%. Now you think, well, why are you using that pivot? Well, this is right too. You can't do anything here. This maybe I'm just going to go back here because that angle's a little bit better in terms of potentially realizing this. So if we're going to go up and get that, now you might change the pivots that you're using once. Let's go to an 8 hour. If this is going to keep going. So just looking at it off the bat, this has some potential right here. All right, so I've got two targets up here kind of lining that up. Now that would, again, not likely to be the 3, right? We're looking for the 3 way up here, but certainly I've got a target here, and I'm using these, the last two, let's get you right on there. The last two swing lows. So here's my swing, internal retrace, swing, internal retrace, although I don't get the golden zone here, so I have a corner pocket, not a golden corner. So I like it a little bit less, but still it's tradable. So I'd be waiting for this, either it's got to finish this 5, and then I'd wait. So if it does that, if it finishes the 5, then I'm waiting for that. I don't know that I like this enough. It looks a little too sloppy here for me to buy it here, even though we've had a little bit of a retrace. I'd like it a little bit lower. So you're just kind of in no man's land here. You're not quite to the median line. You're not, well, let's see. Let's go to an hourly. Am I technical here? Well, we could be. Let's check it. All right, so there's 50 to the tick. I know that gets really, really hard to see. Let's get all this off here. Hang on. All right, so let me try that again, and we'll wrap it up here. So from this pivot, so why that pivot? Well, because I know that these were sloppy and they broke. So potentially this is a 786. So if it's a 1-2, and I'm still fussing with trying to get this to go into a clear 5. Well, here's the 50. So if it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can see an impulse here. So this could be my 4, although it's you're coming out of this junk here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I get a completed impulse here. So that would have to be the 1. So if this is 1, 2, and we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, it overlaps here. So even still, right? You really don't want an impulse here if you're trying to trade this as a diagonal, unless it's going to be the A wave. Right? So it's certainly of the two trades, even though. Well, shit, where was I? Oh, I'm over here to the dollar. Even though over here and over here we have high rankings for ZRX, of the two trades, this is the TRX is much cleaner trade, much better looking trade technically of the two here. Again, this one though you got to wait. This one you're kind of in the schlop over here. So of the two, so I'd keep this on my radar, right? As I said, OX has been number 1 on their algo score for a long time, so we're not. I wouldn't say, don't keep an eye on this, but this is not good enough, right? Why put money at risk here, right? Now, that's me talking as a trader. Now, if you're thinking about long term, right, and where you might want to park some Bitcoin, maybe, all right. So maybe you look at this as just a longer term play, looking for some of the upper targets here, but that's not something you're setting up to trade. That's something you're buying into for a longer term investment, and that's a different story. All right, so then you might be back here looking at some of that fundamental strength of the project again to see if you want to stay along with it. Otherwise, as a trade, this is just not as good, right? So just no clarity here. Right, whoa, shit, I did not mean to go that long. Okay, there's 34 minutes. That'd probably do it for the day. Just a reminder here, right, just again here, if you're thinking, right, if any of this is of this approach appeals to you, well, that's a way to participate with us to get a little discount on your order. Okay, guys, there you go. Have a good afternoon. We'll talk to you tomorrow.